ranking the top 10 orc units post Dataslate. Welcome to the rise of the Green Tide. Whoa!
Let's go.
In the world post Dataslate, which orc index data sheets rose to the top? Which dropped? Who's the biggest, the baddest, the leanest, the meanest fighting machine? Welcome, everybody, to Wall Tactics. David's back. He's here for the big show, not the peasant shows. Oh, the boys are here, and the cooler of beer ain't gonna drink itself. Whoa! All right, got any comments? Nice to see everybody. Let's go straight into the data sheets, starting with what you guys all seen in the thumbnail. Number one.
No surprise here.
Yeah, for sure. The Grots are back. They fell off a little bit last time we did this. We do this every other 5 to 6 weeks, but now they're number one again. They secured their spot. There's no orc list that doesn't bring at least one 11-man unit of Grots. It's obvious to why. The Grots have... Oh, do you want to read their data sheet real quick? Just the main points?
The biggest thing is the Thieving Scavengers. Command phase, roll d6 for each objective marker you control with one or more units from the army, and on a 4-up, you gain 1 CP.
Yeah, and when just you guys know, the Run Herder ability has been FAQ'd. They are not T5 in combat. Even Tabletop Titans were doing that, where Adrian thought that they were for a second, and he just didn't know that they got FAQ'd. But he did understand it the same way that we did. Also, I really think people underestimate that having 2 OC on such a cheap garbage chaff unit. Most garbage chaff units in the current meta are 0 OC. They're swarms. They're not really even going to play the mission like that. They like to get in the way, do other secondaries. No, Grots can straight up walk up and steal primary objectives from other enemy armies with their 2 OC. You know, that actually is a lot when they're such tiny bases. You're not blocking them out. Not to mention, people will straight up put Grots in trucks. Throw them to one part of the field, disembark, just keep playing that mission with only a 100-point package. Grots have been used in so many different ways. Sometimes they're just soaking up the damage when a battle wagon blows up. You have elite units, there might get shot, make it the big capacity of 22, put the Grots in there, Nobz with the leader, boom, when they get blown up, the Nobz just take all the damage. So Grots, no-brainer.
As to why a lot of units that can match that OC, like you said.
Yeah, they're
at 21 OC.
Because there's because they're 21 OC between that unit. No brainer. Everybody brings Grots. But let's move on to number 2, which almost is auto include also. The Trukk.
Yeah, we saw it fall off a little bit after the point hike, but not enough to take it off the top 3.
Yeah, what's important is what? The Wrecking Ball for tank shock.
Exactly. It's a good source for tank shock at the strength 10. You can get 1 to 2 mortal wounds if you spike high enough.
You're going against something, you can straight up get 3 on average if you're stronger than whatever you're going into toughness, because you get +2, you guys, on top of that. So there's been several times in several games where I failed to hurt something enough, or I feel like it needed more damage, or the Trukk needed to snipe out, an assassin. There's a good chance that a Trukk can run up and do 4 mortal wounds to an assassin and just drop him off the table. That's something that people forget all the time. It does have 2 OC, that's fine. It has actually a built-in 6-up invuln, and as a whole, there's a no-brainer why these are so good. Even with the points increase, and you don't even have to spam them. You can bring 3, you can even bring even 1. They've been shown to be useful across the board, especially when you go into one of the next units like a battle wagon or other transports that are making their way into the scene now as we've been developing in the meta, right?
Exactly.
And I really appreciate the T8 and the 10 wounds on such a cheap 60-point transport. So let's go over to
another popular unit here, the Squighog Boyz. Super versatile. You always mention about their bomb squig as well as having the grenades keyword. So another double source of mortal wounds here.
I'm telling you guys, don't let that fall off. The grenade plus mortal wound spam of the bomb squigs does matter. Of course, you can't advance and charge and do it sometimes, right? But there's other points in the games when you might want to do that and reliably take something down that's really going to have the ability to clap you back that you need to just straight up kill, which is what Squighog Boyz are there to do. Take out the big mean bugs, the big green bugs, the big durable beakies. So, yeah. Anything else you want to talk about?
Okay. This unit all hits higher up than what it costs. Like at T7, you're looking at like a Terminator unit that for 5, they cost just as much. And, it's hard for them to clap them back. Where like defensively, I mean.
Yeah, and the fact that when you call the wall, the guy becomes strength 6 that's on top, then he gets lance capability. He's going to be wounding a lot of elite infantry on 2s, 3s if they're kind of even more durable, but that strength really does matter. I've noticed when you go into some armies, getting over to 6 strength and the guy on top, and the jaws becoming strength 7, that actually does matter when you're going into some of these more durable, tough units. And the stickas, do not forget about your sticka weapons, guys. Throwing your stickas, I promise you, does matter and does randomly do damage throughout a game. Stickas cannot be underappreciated. It's a no-brainer. The Squighog Boyz are awesome. Outflanking them, bringing them in from rapid ingress. They're reliable. They're durable. They can play the middle of the board. You don't need to spam them, but if you do, that's great. If you bring one big brick, it's great. Bringing 3-man units is great. They work in every form, every shape, no matter what amount you're using. So if you get a box of them, if you're using them at all, you don't even have to spam them. They'll be very useful and helpful, and they don't feel bad, even if you just bring a 3-man unit or just one big brick. Okay? Don't worry about what's meta and trying to go directly against it for fun because you think that it's too good for that. No. You can use it, and they're healthy, fun. They do everything Orks want to do. They crump. They have they feel no pains, throw off the damage, but they're cavalry, so they can get move blocked. The enemy can kind of interact with them too. So they're not a feel bads unit, and that's what you really want to enjoy as an Ork player. You want to have fun games. Squighog Boyz are still fun because their -1 AP is actually the downside to them. That's actually why I think they aren't even higher and more used, is because people are actually moving slightly more away from them, at least multiple big bricks, because -1 AP just isn't cutting it in the new meta post Dataslate, right? We know Armor of Contempt is a real problem. And so I wouldn't be surprised if they drop even a little more or just become less common in volume on lists.
Right.
That's
we used to see 3 units of sometimes 6.
People just bring as many as they could get their hands on every list, no matter what, and then film the rest. That's how it used to be. And in our numbers, it did show that it's actually less, because it was close to not being even 3rd spot, actually. So Squighog Boyz, even though they're very useful, they're in a healthy place, and I do see them eventually getting a little bit of a points increase from GW, just because they're so useful, and our win rates become 57 as of last time we checked, last week. So yeah, it's a big deal. So let's move on to what you haven't seen in the thumbnail. Number 4. Ready? Guess. 1, 2, 3. Boom. Oh, I clicked the wrong one. It's the wrong direction. My bad. Stormboyz. So Stormboyz actually fell off too.
Yeah, they were number 1 the previous month. They're just a great mission playing unit, super cost efficient.
For sure. The fact that now fly is actually punished to they have to move over the terrain when you and such. Sometimes other units that fly, like people who were scared to use the Def Copters, these guys are going to just move straight through the terrain. Now, mind you, how they fell off is possibly because of the Def Copters. We know some people are starting to bring them more often. We've seen them. They didn't make it on the list, but they are becoming more common, even if you just bring less Stormboyz and still bring at least one Def Copter unit. So Stormboyz, most of the time, they're not even for offensive potential. I have heard of people using them in bricks of 10-man units with their character and, oh my gosh, I'm not having anything. Zagstruck, and them using the here we go, getting really long threat range across the table since they can advance and charge the whole game, even outside of the Waaagh. That's the one way I've heard of them actually becoming good. But other than that, they are just for scoring, playing the mission. But they do suffer from getting picked up by bolters, kind of small arms fire and such. So you do have to be a bit protective of them to a certain extent, which is why people might be moving into using other units, and they've fallen down to 4th spot. Right. So yeah, we know that that's what we Stormboyz, pretty straightforward. Nob On Smasha Squig. So he's not even an auto include, actually, to be honest. The difference between him being on all the squigs was an actual margin of difference that he really does deserve to be in 5th, as he isn't always an auto include. You can take, like I said, just a straight 3-man unit without any leaders. Some people would just bring 3 Young Boys themselves are even good for playing the mission at 2 OC a pop. Their skirmishing units is like how I like to identify them. But when you bring the Nob On Smasha Squig, you're throttling them and their offensive output by about 33%. When you're making them +1 to hit, because now they have potential to hit on 2s, you have potential to do unbridled carnage, and makes their offensive potential outrageous, which is why Nob On Smasha Squig is very important if you're trying to be offensively consistent, right? Of course, if you do place him in a 3-man unit, which I have seen, that 3-man unit becomes amazing at skirmishes, but then you're also giving up a no prisoners sometimes, an easy assassinate sometimes. So as a whole, he's in the big bricks. We know why. And the anti-monster 3+ does make a difference. And this is my choice for Edwapus Kill Choppa. When I play, this is who I use. Having it on a 3+ really does make a difference, you guys. Of course, having it on a beast boss that can go around and fight on his own is cool. But when you have a big brick of 6 Squighog Boyz plus him, you're tearing down amazing in a difference of damage, amazing difference. And I just love it because it also becomes useful to do Unbridled Carnage, and you know you're going to get some sort of return every time. So Nob On Smasha Squig. Woo, woo, woo. But my favorite pick of this top 10 list, you guys, the Warboss. Whoa! Come on, you guys. The basic straight up Warboss for 65 points. Amazing deal.
Yeah, especially because we saw the Beast Boss go up. He's been that replacement on most people's lists.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, he's keep going. He's great.
Yeah, and he's super versatile. You can plug him in multiple units. Also, he has a real good strength with his Power Claw. Strength 10 -2, 2 damage.
And that's what we really need. I wish we had more units with that profile, right? Strength 10, we lack that so much.
Yeah, and this meta is definitely necessary. There's a lot of T5 unit, T6 elite infantry units.
And the thing that I do like about him too that I think is slept on is how many wounds he has. 6 wounds is great. Making a unit +1 a hit is great. His ability on the Waaagh is lovely for 65 points. You're like, yes, that strength, that AP, I love it. Here's the thing. People have been mixing him either in small 10-man units of boys, throwing them in trucks. So you're bringing 3 Warbosses and 3 trucks, 3 10-man units of boys. People are bringing them in mobs with Nob with Wall Banner. People are bringing them in Nob units so that they can make that what we call a scalpel unit much more reliable, hitting on 3s. So he's not just spammed in one kind of way. The Warboss, for his points cost, his offensive throttling and potential, is really, really actually hard to match with the Orks for 65 points. Right. And using the Nob with Wall Banner I've seen is actually a great ability because you're potentially getting him to have 9 attacks 2 times per game, especially if he's in a mob of boys, and then it becomes useful for Unbridled Carnage. The points return on that for CP is amazing on the offensive potential on that. Warboss is just, I love him. He ends up on almost on my list, and it made me feel good and excited because I love the model too, that the one that they're showing in the actual index data sheet. So yeah, Warboss is something I'm really happy to see. Very common coming up in the meta. There's multiple ways to use them. If you got one, if you have multiple, I'm sure you can find effective ways to put multiple on your list. Like I said, even if they're 10-man units with boys and trucks. And that's performing on the GT level you guys were talking about, because that's what we're covering. So it's not like I'm saying, oh, some guy's just having fun with his friends with the beers using 3 Warbosses. No, these guys are going to GTs with 3 Warbosses and 10-man units of trucks, and they're having great outputs. Nobz with wall banners, just mobs in general with the weird boy. Whatever you feel like doing with your Warboss, whatever your unit are going to put on him, more than likely, he's great for what he's getting. And, you know, in general, just to keep in mind, he does get his little devastating shots, and he does throw grenades. So if you do need that mortal wound potential, he has that too in a weird way, you guys. All right.
Sometimes just that extra chip damage makes a difference.
Chip damage matters a lot for what the Orks, guys. Chip damage matters a lot. You got to get your return. Now, Mozrog Skragbad, right behind the Warboss.
Yeah, he's another great hammer unit to have for anti-monster, anti-vehicle with his 4+ auto hitting or auto wounding.
Yeah, exactly. Which that's what we like for, because he also comes up 4 damage, 3 damage, 5 damage to 4 damage against Titanic units. Against monsters and vehicles, and even more against Titanic units for +2. But the issue is his AP, right? We do like to see Big Chompa's jaws with -2, but it really does matter when Gut Ripper's trying to go into these 2-up armor save units that sometimes have access to Armor of Contempt. And then he's coming in there and he's like, I'm going to mess you up. Just kidding. You get a 2-up save. Oh.
Yeah, he has another purpose, though, with his defensive profile, right?
Yeah, I mean, with sitting there with 9 wounds at T10, then you add Artist Nails, you throw up his 4-up invuln on his 4-up Feel No Pain. He's essentially double the wounds, if not slightly more, mathematically speaking. If we'll just pretty much, when I'm putting him on the table, you can reliably assume he's about 20 wounds to 22 wounds, especially if you're using Artist Nails on him. So he becomes outrageous durability. A lot of the time, I like to sit him behind my first wave. You know, whatever my scoring or staging units are, I put them out there. Moz can sometimes stay in the open a little bit, draw some kind of petty fire or main fire so the trucks stay alive. And then because of his second ability of Hungry Choppa.
Yeah, each time he declares a charge at the end of the turn, when he makes an attack, unmodified successful wound roll of 5+, scores a critical wound.
Yeah, so that's why he's actually a counter-charging unit. I think if people will really keep in mind, you don't want to be charged when you're using Moz. You actually want to keep him slightly back behind something else so that you can actually get a charge off on him. So he does become more reliable in fighting. I'm not going to say completely reliable because, like we spoke about earlier, his AP plus his strength, in my opinion, isn't where I would want it to be. 7 isn't a bad number, but when you ever do get into fights with odd, weird units, and now there's sometimes toughness 8 sticking around and weird elite units like that, I don't appreciate his strength either. So he actually used to be higher on this list and has fallen off a little bit. I'm not saying he's fallen off in the meta at all. Not bad like that. What we're seeing, though, is people are finding ways to play without bringing him. And I think that's important to see because a lot of the time, everybody's straight up saying he's our best unit. I agree, he is our best unit, but doesn't mean we have to always bring him. You know, have creativity, you guys. Play to your strength and what your list thematically is doing. But if you need just a straight up best unit in the index, Mozrog's your man. Mozrog's your get. Mozrog's your Warboss. Whoa. So yeah, guys, remember, mathematically, he has roughly 20 wounds. Now we'll move on to the next one.
Snagga Boyz.
So the Snagga Boyz, another unit that has slightly fallen off. And what at the beginning, the first time we did this, it was third. Were they third?
Yeah, they were top 3, and I think part of that also has to do with the Beast Boss falling off a bit.
That's exactly what it was. The Beast Boss fell off a bit, and people started to realize I can use Boyz for very similar things. Yeah. Boyz didn't make it on the list either, you know, spoiler, but they did get great play. They still got, you know, very, very good numbers. It's just that Snagga Boyz still do have the benefit of the additional strength that really does become important. The ability they have actually really goes in tandem with the Beast Boss on foot. You really need that, you guys, because what you're doing here is you're utilizing this ability. So even if you have just a Nobz straight up left over in this unit, this is what's important for the Beast Boss to get his output to be important, as you want to pop Unbridled Carnage, reroll the entire hit roll when the unit's hitting on 2s, and then try to fish for more 5s and 6s by rerolling that even with your already hits. So you pretty much pick up 1, 2, 3s, 4s, reroll them again, try to get more 5s and 6s. That's actually where their usefulness comes through for the Beast Boss. I know. Okay. And so that's why they're actually important in the strength, like I said, strength 5. But you can play with just straight up Boyz. We see that very, very often, and sometimes people mix them up. Sometimes people just bring Boyz only. So Snagga Boyz, an amazing unit. Don't ever forget that which Ork units have grenades and which don't, because that's also important. This unit does not, I remember, but this is one of the few units that does not have grenades, okay? Squighog Boyz themselves have grenades, like we said earlier. So this is great. We know why we bring them, but they actually did come down in the amount, and it's very viable to use Boyz instead of them for almost the same exact thing that you're trying to do. All right. So what's coming next? This is what's going to get everybody excited. Here we go. A new Nobz. Whoa, the Scalpel unit. It's made its way again. The Nobz are back in town, coming up in play, ending up on so many lists. You guys, they had great numbers. Actually, as me and David were doing our numbers, the more recent weeks, as of the last 2 weeks, some of these units became more and more prolific as we came closer to the more recent meta. Yes. And Nobz with Power Claws were that exact unit that at the beginning of the post Dataslate, they really didn't come more into play. Then about 3 weeks in, boom, their numbers went up. People were spamming them even, bringing multiple units. I'm really happy to see this, right?
Right, and the key is the AP. And that's why we've seen maybe like the Boyz or the Snagga Boyz kind of drop a little bit because they only have -1. And with Armor Contempt being handed out like candy, you know, you're hitting with 0 AP. That's essentially.
Yeah, against 2-up armor saves. The other thing is, this is volume, guys. Volume with a good strength number. It's not where we want it. We want it to be strength 10 at least. But with the volume of 3 attacks up to 4 attacks at that great strength, at that acceptable AP, that's when you can become just a straight up problem solver. That's why we call that the Scalpel unit around here, because it's going and carving out the problem in your enemy faction. So whatever you're looking at, you see on that field, you're pretty much lining up your Nobz. Oh, you got these Terminators I got to kill. Oh, you got this weird monster I got to kill. You got these other durable units. Here we go. Even if I'm winning you on 5s, the amount of volume plus Unbridled Carnage plus 1 from the Warboss, from the 9 attacks coming from the Warboss in the unit during the Waaagh. The Nobz with the Warboss is a great dynamic, of course, because they get the subtract 1 to wound when the Warboss is leading this unit. So this is what the Warboss becomes very, very useful on. The one thing is I know people do forget about, even when they have their pistols and their power claws, hypothetically, they can pop the ammo run. You know, a lot of the time, the reason you're not is because you're disembarking from a truck, moving, advancing, charging. So then you don't actually get to use it. But if you ever do get the opportunity to use it, don't forget, you can get probably 2, maybe 1 or 2 wounds off like that. Some lethals, hopefully. So yeah, and you get 2. So, I mean, I don't know if you're ever alive long enough to shoot with Wise, but you do get 2 for a 10-man unit. Nobz made their way into the top 10. They're very deserving, and I wouldn't be surprised if they go up even a little more or just become used in a greater volume. Right.
Which we did see towards the last 2 weeks that we covered.
And I've seen a little people trying to use Painboys with them too. We're trying to use Painboys with them, get D3 back when they can, have a different kind of durability, because then you can stack Artist Nails plus the 5 of Feel No Pain into that unit. So
yeah, real quick, I want to shout out Kim Boo Lane. We saw his list and he had 25 of these on his list.
And he got 25. What he got? Third too at the GT.
Yeah, he got third at a GT. I forgot what country, because which one was it? It was a European country, but yeah, good job, man.
Yeah, that was really fun and great to pull up. So yeah, it was. That's just another example. We've seen them on the highest top tables, GTs, everywhere that they've gone. Nobz are where it's at. If you got some, be prepared to use it. We've also seen, but mentioning Kim, we've seen them using SWAT teams where people bring 5-man units, and then they bring a burner boy unit, put them in a truck. We call that a SWAT around here, or anywhere actually in the Ork meta community, I'm pretty sure. You know, you have the guys that clear traps, so you don't have to completely disembark in the trunk when people put garbage in front of you. And then when someone comes to fight with you for the objective, your Nobz get out and start doing the crumping, you know? So
I like that, the SWAT team.
Yeah, the SWAT team. So Nobz are used with the Warboss or in SWAT. They do shoot, but you know that's not necessarily what they're there for. And yeah, don't sleep on them. Very useful. They solve a lot of problems with most of the matchups that you're gonna have. So from the Nobz, we're moving into another exciting one. The Kaptain Badrukk plus Flashgitz combo, because they were used in tandem. There was not one list without the other.
Yeah, if you're bringing one, you had to bring the other, especially post Dataslate where they both got little point reductions. Even more reason to bring them. Yeah, and Kim actually was one of the few people that we've seen bring more than just one 10-man unit with Kaptain Badrukk, trying to use them as a SWAT team as well once in a while. So that was really fun. Different to see. We appreciated that. But as a whole, guys, their data sheet is unmatched in our codex. I mean, it's in our index for shooting, most likely until we get our codex, regardless of what point increases and decreases happen. I do see them getting an increase just because they've been so popular in all the top performing lists. Right.
And they went down in points post, you know, in their data slate. So they just became a no-brainer a lot of the time. I do think that they are slightly moving into not an auto take position because of the lack of AP. But as a whole, guys, when you pop ammo runs, when you're using them, they solve a lot of problems too. They're similar to the Nobz, where they're problem-solving unit to a bunch of different types of units because of the volume that they put out. That's really what it is. Like always for Orks, volume solves problems. Yeah. Whatever, even if you're winning on 5s. And a ridiculous amount of volume solves problems for Orks, and sometimes that's just a straight up answer.
Yeah, your opponent has to respect this unit, and if they don't, they're gonna find out why.
I mean, Kaptain Badrukk himself is actually a great data sheet as a whole. The fact that he's one of the very few, if not the only infantry unit that has a straight up 4-up invuln built in melee and shooting, is something that makes him distinguished. He has an aura, you know, of a 6-up, a -1 toughness, which matters when you're strength 6 guns. Sometimes people do get close enough. Very rarely, but if it does come up. And as a whole, the fact that he has potential to have -3 AP with his shooting up to damage 3 does matter. So, you know, you can't rely on it sometimes, but if you're standing still with his reroll included, when he's in that Flashgitz unit for his Flashgitz ability, that becomes almost reliable to get 1 through against units. So as a whole, that's really where you're going to like him and feel him as on his own. He's hard to assassinate because he does have at least 6 wounds and a 4-up invuln. It becomes almost like a dev wound thing. So, and don't forget, guys, ever, the Nobz and the Flashgitz, Kaptain Badrukk and the Flashgitz are essentially Nobz. So they have base 4 attacks, strength 5, -1 AP. On the Waaagh, that means 5 attacks each. Not that you're going to do much very often, but hey, if you have to reposition, reposition, charge in a unit that's an objective that you already pretty much tore down the pieces, beat it up and stand there, and now hold that lane, hold that position so that you can shoot on the following turn and Overwatch. That's something that matters as well. And that's really how you can actually get another kind of utility and versatility with them.
Yeah, they can cause point swings in the later turns for you, just enough to pull out that close victory.
Yeah, and people don't really want to shoot them. That's the thing. That's something that I personally had to realize is I was so worried about them playing them defensively that I wasn't getting my return on them sometimes because I was so worried about people trying to kill them. And instead, I really just was taking away their choices to a way that they appreciated, because instead they were like, well, you're not going to Overwatch me over there. You're not out of your vehicle yet. You're not going to pop that lethal ability or whatever right now. So I'm going to deal with what's right in front of me while you reposition and play around in your truck, or constantly. Sometimes I have a strategic reserve that when I didn't have to. You don't really have to do that. Now, people will take the mech, put the mech plus the Flashgitz in a truck, make it hitting on 4s. That's a useful way to play them. If you have a very shooting heavy meta or don't play on a lot of heavy terrain, that's something you really might want to look into, because at that point you do have to worry about even when you come in from outflank, right? Or strategic reserve, sorry. But that being said, how I think they're most useful, put them into a firing lane, disembark from that truck early in the game. Everybody else is storming the board, taking over the objective. If the enemy does take time to shoot at it, and if they're at that range, chances are it's better off for you, because they're not putting that into Nobz, they're not putting that into Squighog Boyz, they're not putting that into Moz, they're not putting that into Beast Boss. There's a bunch of different units that they're just not putting those shots into that are used to kill these Flashgitz, and that's why putting them on the table early, getting the Overwatch possibility, or at least the threat of it, right? Especially if you're going against another melee army, let them know, oh, you're trying to charge my counter-charging units? Well, then I'm going to Overwatch you and weaken you, then you're going to bounce or just straight up die. So Flashgitz, that's actually how they're used and very useful. And it's not surprising to anybody.
Yeah, great unit. Great price.
And they're going to get a points increase, in my opinion, too. So use them while you can while they're hot.
Especially if people are running 25 of them.
Yeah, and that's and that's our top 10, guys. I don't know what call you, but we do have honorable mentions. So before we review the top 10, let's look at a couple of the honorable mentions as units that still became popular, still got a lot of play, or were performing on the very high top tables. So we think we should talk about. Beast Boss is something that still is in play. The dev wounds when you're charging outside of the Waaagh, outside of using Edwapa's Kill Chappa, is why he's so viable to use even with his points increase.
Right. Yeah, like you mentioned, he's just a viable option.
Because he gets 6 attacks is really what it is with his Beast Chappa. Then that's how you can fish for dev wounds. A lot of the time you're not going to use his claw, and you're just going to look for his damage output through attrition of numbers, trying to get Unbridled Carnage off, and trying to re-roll that hit roll with your Beast Snagga boys that are on foot. So no brainer on why he's there, but you don't have to bring him. Like you said, the Warboss is taking him over. Warbikers become very often, and used in tandem or in replacement of the Stormboyz. People are liking their T6. They're liking the fact that they have a weird number of wounds. I like that the Nob on Warbike gets an additional wound that's new in the meta. Right. I really appreciate that a lot. And look again, guys, keywords, grenades. You can put grenades on your Warbikers, guys. I'm telling you, it's almost harder to find a unit that doesn't have grenades on the Orks index than does. I mean, than does, because they're just everywhere, and they really catches people off guard. Always put your power claws on that unit. And as the Death Killer Warstrike becomes more popular as well, the Warbikers are kind of rising as well. Right. Even just using a 3-man unit with that. So if you have Warbikers, put them on the table too. They're just great overalls in every way. T6 is great. T6 is a great threshold. Speaking of T6,
and we started to see Mega Nobz pop up a little bit more recently.
Yeah, in the more recent 2 weeks of this, Mega Nobz made way more appearances than they did immediately post Dataslate.
Yeah, this is a unit that we see next month really rising up in this ranking, especially for their melee profile. People are taking the twin kill saw, of course, for the twin linked. And what's key here is the strength 12. I think one thing we're going to see from the Space Marine meta is a lot of Gravis units pop up. Those are T6, so you're still wounding them on 2s.
And then you're also re-rolling, which means why that matters that you're wounding them on 2s and re-rolling you guys. And you go, is that redundancy? It is redundancy, but the point is you're so low on the amount of attacks you have, in the fact that you're hitting on 4s. Right. Even if you had +1 to hit from your character, you're just not getting a lot of attacks anyways in. So you need every attack to go through that you get. That's why the strength plus the reroll really does help. And the -3 AP. Where else are you getting -3 in our index other than the burn mega knobs and maybe like mecha dreads, some kind of dreadnoughts, kind of mech units that you can't really even maneuver around the board as much. So plus mega knobs can actually stand in the open or just tagging terrain, take small arms fire, no problem, not be scared of it, take Overwatch, not be scared of it, and then get up in there and deliver the damage, hold the enemy off. They're not reliably dying. I mean, even to a Custodes unit of Guardians, they're not reliably being killed. The fact that they have such a great armor saves makes a difference, guys, and cover is everywhere. So be on the lookout for Mega Knobs. They're actually really good for their points. Not crazy good. I mean, you can still get a unit of Thunderwolf Cav for how much?
90 for 3.
And this is 390 for 3 Mega Knobs. So it's not that they're game breaking either. I'm not saying that because they do have their low amount of attacks, but they do solve certain problems. And when you use Nobz plus Mega Nobz plus Flashgitz, that's the dynamic trio of Nobz. And that's just been taking over and doing great and all across the meta, all across the game, on every level of play. So I see Mega Nobz making, and people want to shoot more now, right, guys? And as you come forward and you stage can't hide everything, you got to leave sometimes stuff on the objective. Maybe try to play fixed objective, put stuff in the middle of the table. I can see them being found to be played in different ways that haven't been played yet. And you might be the first get to do it. So that's why it's important that we bring it up.
Right. And they're a great choice for, like, how you like to say it, stat checking your opponent.
Yeah.
Like you said, 2-up save, you get cover. Another thing we didn't mention, they have the grenades keyword.
Another grenades keyword. And like we said, guys, we know that you can artist nails them. Chances are you're using that artist nails in your Squighog Boyz already because you're relying on the armor save on these guys. But if you're not, artist nails is great. The point is you're stat checking them because everything across the table, somewhere around T6, T8, whatever, T10, whatever units you have on the table, but you're not sitting there at T5 with the 5-up armor save. You're sitting there at T6. You're saying use anti-armored weapons against me instead of the Squighog Boyz, instead of the Trukks, instead of Moz. So that's what you're doing. You're kind of using them to draw fire, and then they actually have the potential to stay alive.
Right.
And that's what their utility is. So I'm pretty good on Mega Knobs. There's a couple units here that I'm happier more than others to see, and some that I'm just not surprised of. So we can go over it again for anyone who's new that didn't see. Gretchin, number 1. 2 OC is great. Getting you more CP is very important for the Orks. Being able to screen your backfield, very obvious. 2, Trukks. Having that firing deck is very important when you're running Flashgitz. Having the ability to have a 6-up invuln actually does matter. It really does. It saved me in some crazy games. Wrecking Ball being strength 10 for tank shot cannot be overlooked and will almost always catch your enemy off guard. So it's a great point range and a great durability for T8 with 10 wounds and moving 12 inches. Trukks can't be overlooked. Obviously, nobody is. Squighog Boyz still come with their reliability offensively and defensively. We're seeing them use less because of the lack of AP, but the volume is still very important, and the mortal wound potential still very important. 5-up feel no pains also messing up people's durability and offensive output, throwing off the math. 4,
Stormboyz, great utility unit. They play the mission, good deep strike option to keep your opponent honest and have to screen their backfield.
And one of our only deep striking units, because the only other option is Def Coptas. Nob On Smasha Squig makes his appearance because he's pretty much always using the Squighog Boyz, but not always. He's close, but not always. So that's why he's a little less off. Making them 33% more offensively viable and having head whop a skill chop is exactly what you want. And I mean, you could put him even in a 3-man unit if and you're going to enjoy the return. Warboss.
Replacement option for the Beast Boss. He's got good strength at 10, -2 damage with the Power Claw. He's great into plugging into units just to buff them up, like the Nobz that we've seen
for his cost.
Your boys, yeah, the cost is super efficient.
The amount of getting up to 9 attacks is huge. Having built-in 6 wounds is huge. Warboss, he's all over the meta. He's used in a variety of types of lists that you cannot sleep on him. If you're making even a mech wall, a speed wall, whatever you're doing, throw him even in a 10-man unit of boys in a truck. You'll appreciate it. You'll love it. He'll solve problems for you. And I'm high on him with the Nob On Wall banner combo and just putting follow me lads on there and just chucking across the table and crumping people with double walls. Mozrog,
a great distraction unit with the 4-up. He also is a good counter unit, like you said. And when he's countering or when he's acting as a counter unit, most people don't have enough to really deal with him at that stage. And It's just really hard to determine how much to put into him.
That's the problem. And it's hard for the enemy to know exactly how much to put into them. If they're shooting unit, you can actually force them to try to put more guns on one side of the table so that you can chuck yourself up the field with your trucks and everything else. Because you're like, well, there's not enough here to pop all my trucks. I'm going to cover the distance. I'm going to get on you and then on you and start crumping you. And we do see him slightly being used less because his lack of AP, his lack of just straight up strength sitting there, because it does come into play when you're going into certain elite infantry and such. And Armor of Contempt makes a difference. So you don't want to be taking 2-up saves. You know, you don't want your enemy taking 2-up saves with your Moz. And even though he's durable, there are prolonged fights he doesn't want to be in. But overall, he's still the best unit in our index. Snagga Boyz, currently the most favored battle line unit. Doesn't mean you can't use boys. But the strength 6 is very important. The strength 5 going up to strength 6 during a while is very important. And their ability in tandem with the Beast Boss is really what keeps them up there as well. They're just overall, if you have the points left over, you're willing to pay the premium, stick in a battle line unit of Beast Snagga Boyz, but that doesn't mean you can't use normal boys. Nobz. Nobz are what you want as the scalpel unit. We called it here first. We've been calling it since the book came out. That's what it is. They're solving a lot of your problems in a lot of different matchups. Put the Warboss in there, get that built-in, subtract 1 to wound, get that reliable damage output. I know people want to use the Pain Bowie. I'm not going to go against them at all. You know your metas, but just to make it straightforward, using the Warboss to get them to hit on 3s makes a huge difference, because the last thing you want to do is be hitting on 4s going into hitting on 5s against certain armies that make you -1 to wound, especially when in some matchups you're already wounding things on 5s. So you're like, oh, I can't get that. You really need the accuracy, reliability, and it just goes great in stacking with the unbridled carnage. So Nobz, boom. They're going to rise. They're going to be all over the place. They're on almost every list. Then we got the last but not least, the Kaptain Badrukk plus the Flashgitz combo.
Your best shooting option right now in the index too.
Yep, no problem. No question at all about that. Volume solves problems. And this is the thing. This is throwing volumes across the table. Ugh, strength 6, -1. It's great. So
re-rolling, sustain hits 1.
Re-rolling, sustain hit. Then
Make
that's
sure you bring enough dice.
That's what I'm telling. Make sure you bring enough dice. Make sure, like I'm telling you guys, try it if you haven't. Jump out of the battle, the truck, whatever you're in. Hold that lane down. Get yourself that hitting on 4s as early as the game as possible. Thank me later, because you'll start. But in certain matchups, bring them off on the table. Use the mech. You know your meta. Also, just one last thing about that. If you come off the side of the table, you are able to disembark from the truck according to the rules, because that's how normal moves happens. They have their normal move, then you can actually get out at the end of a normal move. So the truck made a normal move, therefore the Nobz can get out, the Flashgitz can get out and stand there. That way you can actually be ready to use them right off the bat if you want to.
Does that allow you to get closer to the middle of the board?
It can, yeah. It can help you get a little closer, but you do have to stay within the limitations. The point is, you can come right off the table and pop its war gear ability right away from a safe position where you're at a full max unit of 10. Okay. So that's really what it's about, and can't be slept on. And then one more little last look at this: the honorable mentions. Beast Boss, boom. If you don't use him, it's okay, but he's great. Into a NIDS heavy or armor heavy, as you've seen with the new with the new Space Marine detachment of all those mechs. Yeah. You might end up needing to bring more of them just because you have to be ready for this. Then the War Bikers, playing the mission, great point cost. T6, like I said, you start matching T6 War Bikers plus T6 Mega Nobz plus T7 Squighog Boyz plus Nobz with -1 to hit plus Trukks plus Mozrog. All your stuff is sitting over at T6. Okay, have fun with your small arms fire into me. You're winning me on 5s across the table. And then Mega Nobz, because you're probably going to use Artist Nails on something else that has a worse armor save. Their armor save actually becomes a big deal, and them sitting at T6 really does matter. Not a lot of units are punching them out either, and in my opinion, they're good for drawing counter charges. So you put them somewhere where someone charges them sometimes because they haven't cleared them off. You get a good counter charge off of them, and you need to -3 AP. In some of the matchups, it becomes very useful. And actually, interestingly enough, the one that it doesn't become useful in is against Knights. Other than that, other armies that have a bunch of small arms fire and weird kind of strengths, what is a guard tank doing into this? Not a lot of them actually even have the AP once you're in cover to deal with that. So as a whole, Mega Nobz are going to come up as in the meta. Don't be surprised to see it. So that's our top 10 plus some honorable mentions. And from here, we'll go into the chats. So
start from the top.
You can know. Boom. Sorry, guys. I was getting David the mouse.
The fighting fedora out here, just popping in to say, "For the revolution!"
That's my Waaagh.
That's appropriate.
Yeah, I decided to do a Waaagh for him now.
We read this one. Right?
Yeah, we read that one. You read that one too?
This one. Happy Friday, the
Whoa,
18th.
That's awesome. All right.
Also,
October. Yes, boys, it's October, and that's how we're trying to get out a Bat Rep Combat Patrol.
All right, Copel. Can't wait for this live. You know it will be a good one because there's David too.
Oh, there we go. Well, I hope it was a
you.
good one. I mean, I enjoyed making the list and setting it up. It was kind of validating some of my thoughts going forward on what I thought was happening, where units were kind of sliding back, some were rising up, the rise in the green tide. And I think it's going to keep adjusting more and more. There's a lot of units that are still very viable and still very being used that we didn't even mention today, but that were mentioned, that were brought up in the list, especially in the more recent list. So I look forward to how it develops even more.
Wicked Joe. Once the limbos were out, I had no use for grots till 10.
Ah, there we go. Okay, yeah, and I have way too many of them. So, I mean, I'm left over with like 100. Gotta spam them. There you go. That's what I'm saying. I tried with my 100 or whatever I had.
Redmond also says he's working on his fourth
Okay,
truck.
fourth. Having 4 is a great number. I have 5, and I don't care to have 6. But, you know, if you had 6, it could be very good too. But having 4 is a great number, dude. You know.
All right, Wicked Joe, I heard you
whoa
a little louder when you run 18 of them.
I'm heard he's talking about Def Copters.
Yeah,
little freak.
18.
All right, okay, I see you.
Says 18,
18 talking about Def Copters. Okay, people will wall louder if you have 18 Def Copters. I never stopped running my Def Copters.
Def Copter gang, son.
Gang. What gang is it? Well, wow, the Evil Sons. Where would you put them?
Cough higher toughness than Gaz cough.
Yeah, well, Gaz is infantry, of course, keep in mind. Of course, it is outrageous when you look at him. You know, Maz is 10, Gaz is looking gigantic with only toughness 10. He's like, this is all for look. It's actually styrofoam. I die kind of easily. My Grot doesn't, though. Here, take this last cannon. You know, and holds Makari in the front so it's decimated. I don't know how that works.
Square Hammer. Seems like Orks' best strength are durable MSU units going to fixed secondaries. Very easy for Orks to score 90+ points every game.
And that is a way people have been trying to play them differently. People are going more towards fixed as a whole in the meta because they're tired of the inconsistency from the cards. I can see that. And we know as Orc players, we're going to kind of occupy the middle table and try to fight for it anyways. So you might as well put a secondary that's going to make you stand there and do it. It's about what units are you bringing to do those secondaries, while what units are you using to hold back and continue to, go forward and continue to pressure the enemy. If you have any of those ideas to do with your fix or your list, go ahead and show them. I haven't seen too many people actually using fix yet with Orks, but I know it's definitely coming and going to happen because it's only a matter of time. And that's actually where I think Mega Nobz come into play, because they're a unit that you can stick behind a wall in a building and try to play for fixed secondaries.
Yeah, you can bring them in units of 2.
Which is funny, right?
Points to do.
Yeah, 60 points.
Warboss does indeed have the grenades keyword.
Just about everything does. Just about everything does. I don't know what that is. Oh, yeah. Okay, well, just click a different.
No, don't have enough.
Yeah.
I used to count winning by OP, not clearing the board, a loss.
By outplaying, but count be by OP, outplaying, outpoints, and not clearing the board, a loss.
I'm not sure.
I'm not exactly sure what you meant there, but yeah.
It doesn't feel orky, that's for sure. But if you're going to win GTs, it's the play.
Yeah, I think going for fixed secondaries. I think going for fixed secondaries might feel his way too. I don't know which one he meant by that. But definitely being orky is just crumping. So I think that's exactly what Edmund was saying, is that he's probably saying I just try to crump all the time, and then now I know that I should play for the mission for objectives and stuff. But you know, Orks don't really play the mission. You're right. In lore, they just run up and crump. They're just looking for a scrap. But you know, we can be brutal and cunning, guys, and we can be cunning but brutal. So keep that in mind when you play. It's not orky. It's just not morky, you know, or gorky. Oh, you like that?
No, that's good.
Because gorky is the fighting one. Keep going.
Redmond says, yeah, I just play with my buddies and sometimes at a local shop. Nothing fancy. And that's all right. As long as you're having fun Everyone loves playing Orks. I've never heard anyone complain about playing Orks. So it's really just about having fun with your buddies.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of people, here's the thing. Orks are just not played that often because they're hard to get used to when you're a new player, especially when you're getting used to Warhammer as a whole, as a game. You're going into a game that's deliberately designed to be space future adventure warfare with guns, and then you're playing the one faction does not use space adventure using guns. Like, so you're like, what's happening here when you're first getting into it and people are shooting you off tables and you're just like waiting, like, dude, I've played for 30 minutes and I haven't killed anything yet because I'm still trying to close the distance. Like, so most of the time people are happy to see you because they're happy to shoot at you. Right. So that's so as a whole, they're awesome.
Yeah, when we got into Warhammer, there were no current Ork players. There were a lot of former Ork players, and
a lot of people quit Orks.
Yeah, because for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
James Hugh, we need a Warboss on Defcopter.
Whoa!
Whoa! So that's 19 Defcopters.
No, I'm not just kidding.
Redmond wants his Maz and he wants bikes.
Oh, okay, that's what you need. Yeah, Maz is, and I like bikes. I have like 20 something, maybe like 24 of them. So I have more than I know what to do with at this point, but I'm not mad about it.
Wicked Joe liking the Warboss on Defcopter idea. He thinks it would sell out.
Warboss on Defcopter. That's hilarious.
It's gonna be hilarious if that ever does come true.
I know, right? Like, God, you guys, you've made it into fruition. You believed enough.
All right, and Chris is asking, what fixed you going for though, or is it dependent?
So you build that into your list. You're probably gonna do cleanse or homers or behind enemy lines or bring it down. It is somewhat matchup dependent, but you initially already played into your list. You know what I'm saying? So you know what you're trying to do, and then you do it. I think he actually replied because they were discussing to each other. So Square tried, yeah. So I think he actually replied recently.
Yeah, same answer.
Yeah, same answer. Most people know because other factions are doing the same thing. It's what way are you going to do with Orks, and that's why I keep honing in on Mega Nobz, because they can stand around and actually keep trying to do their thing and force a counter charge if they know I'm going to sit here behind this wall. I'm going to keep doing my middle objective clearing and cleansing and just standing here, haha, and you can't shoot me because I'm too small and hidden and I have too good armor save because you can't indirect me sometimes. And then people are like, I'm just gonna go crump them, and then you crump them in return, and it's a great back and forth. Sorry, I got excited. All
right, James, you have another idea here, or maybe a big mech on Defcopter.
Okay, that's actually a little more viable, but here's the thing: big mechs are too big to be on a Defcopter. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it would have to become something that's not a Defcopter, something outrageously big, and then it'd just not be a Defcopter anymore. But the idea of a big mech on something is what I'd like to see. So I'll just take it as that.
Redmond says, Nobz steady on my list. They're replacing my Mega Nobz.
Oh, there you go. So, I mean, you can use either or. I think the only difference here is that, one, you get better AP from the Mega Nobz, but the Nobz give you the volume and put you where you need to be for multitude of problem solving. But Mega Nobz can stand around. In general, I've always been more high on Nobz than Mega Nobz. But that's just me.
Maybe you're familiar with this. He says, I want the goddamn Chin Ork transport back with firing deck.
Yeah, so it's just like a, that's what a Big Mac would be in, a Chinook. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's pretty much like a helicopter slash like big transporty unit that kind of flies a little bit. It's a Legends model now. So yeah. So how about that? To answer the other one, goes in tandem with this. The Big Mac would have to be something on that. You know what I'm saying? Like, too big. Because remember, guys, Big Macs in lore are like super covered in armor to the point that they're being hunched over and they're like as thick as a little dreadnought. So yeah, you got to keep that in mind too.
And James Hugh with more ideas here. Big Mac KFF plus shock attack gun on Copter.
I mean, that's not unfeasible. It's just the reason that doesn't make sense, which it's okay to not make sense as an orc, but why it doesn't make sense is because when the shock attack gun's being shot in lore, there's like a herd of runts and it's, you know, that are sitting around, running around, and they're getting sucked up into the vacuum to be shot. So if you're on a Copter, you're like not going to be able to get ammunition. That's why it wouldn't make sense. That's all, because there's the runts are going to be able to keep up with you. You're going to have your hose like 1,000 feet in the back, and you'd be running around like, hold on, I got to get some more, you know? So I don't know how that would work, or they'd, you know, be attached on a string to the bottom of your copter. I don't know.
Can you have a little sidecar?
Yeah, you'd have a little sidecar. You just put them in there. Like, I would say there.
Also, cans should be battle line.
That should be an
just saying.
attachment. That should be one of the attachments like we were talking about with a mech wall or a walker or a dread wall. There's a bunch of different ones that used to exist. And I would love to see them, or they just be able to come back to life. We're talking about our predictions. You can bring back a unit of walkers. Why not?
Right.
Why not?
Let's do it. And Wicked Joe's liking the SWAT team.
SWAT team. Yeah, I like SWAT team too. I haven't run it too much, but you know, it's good for kind of multitudes of issues, as it can clear small chaff units. It can fight out with power armored units and hold its own, at least until something a bit more durable gets over there.
Is there a reason?
I don't know. Yeah.
All right, trucks packed with Flashgitz and Burnaboys parked on objectives without nice cover. Call that a good day.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're playing on a terrain that you're not going to be able to, people don't put too many buildings by it at all, or isn't near it at all, and it's a bigger unit, you know they're not going to get cover. You're like, or a smaller unit per model, but big bases or whatever, you know they're not going to get cover. There you go. Both those units, because their lack of AP doesn't become an issue, and you're just going in. Especially because the burner boys actually get to reroll if someone is on an objective. They get to reroll the wounds, so it becomes cool.
And he's asking, "Where's my fair-priced AP?"
Yeah, the Squighog Boyz and the Nobz. That's it. That's the thing is the Squighog Boyz with their -1 AP. You know, even if someone's taking a 3-up armor save because the armor have contempted, they'll stay alive sometimes. But the Squighog Boyz being flat damage too, and their reliable volume, that can counteract that and still crump the enemy unit. But if you are going on 2-up armor save stuff, you need the Nobz, in my opinion, or even Mega Nobz.
And he says, my cousin plays Templars. He kicks my teeth in every few weeks.
Sounds like you need more Nobz, because if you get more, if most likely he's running bricks and then a couple gun lines, something shooting at you, you know, the Space Marines with some of their reliable long range damage of firepower from their lances or their dreadnoughts. So having stuff like Nobz that when you do close the distance and hit them, you're just straight up killing them. Just spreading your wounds with the small, durable MSU units that can skirmish is good. But the reason why I also like Nobz is when you do run into that enemy unit, whether it's Terminators or just their hordes of Space Marines and power armors, you can either fight in death or fight them, prepare for the countercharge, still fight in death, and that second turn and get a double return on that. So Black Templars are actually doing quite well. They have like a 60% win rate or something like that. They're good. You just got to know what he's using and what kind of problem units that we have that can counter it. That's one of the things where Flashgitz can kind of come into play as well, where you know he's going to try to fight you and you shoot and you overwatch him or have these gun lines in position. Flashgitz actually, when they pop the ammo runt, can destroy a dreadnought as well. So yeah, more trucks possibly if he's shooting you from too far, close the distance, stuff like that.
Yeah, it sounds like he is running the Redemptors because the Strength 9 AP4 across the board.
Then yeah,
those Redemptors also get 6-up funeral pain, I believe, with Black Templars, which makes them a little more annoying.
Yeah, it does, especially because they have reduced damage by 1.
Yeah.
But that's why you can't really use as many Mega Nobz. But don't forget to throw grenades at those units.
Right.
I'll throw grenades, Squighog Boyz. That's where a Beast Boss comes into play on foot. And he does his dev wounds. You just throw a grenade at him, get the Beast Boss in there, throw maybe a Nob there, whatever it is. You have a good chance to try to kill him. Or Flashgitz still actually have a good potential to hurt him a good amount, even with all that of capability. It just depends if he's getting cover and such like that too, right? Because they do have good armor saves. Because dreadnoughts can be a problem, but we do have things to solve it.
It says, park them over 6 inches, get plunging Flashgitz glow. And he loves his grenades.
Yes.
All right. Artemis Steve, late, but here from the south of the border.
Whoa! That's where we're from, south of the border. The Gulf of Mexico. I came on a banana boat. No, I'm just kidding. I did not. Our family is Mexican, though, Puerto Rican.
You say golf?
I said the Gulf.
Oh,
the Gulf of Mexico. That'd be funny. We are some Gulf. I am the Gulf from Mexico.
Redmond misses his Mega Nobz.
Whoa!
Lane Steel 240. Welcome.
There we go. I haven't seen you in a bit. You get. But yeah, shout out.
David's walls getting better.
Oh, David getting love for his wall. There you go. Oh!
Yeah, I just don't want to scream too much into the mic. And,
Ruin whoever's listening. Like,
yeah,
oh,
exactly.
what's wrong with these guys? You know.
Kim is loving the Big Mac on custom mega copter. Oh, mega copter.
Okay, there we go. That's a solution. He is a mega captain. He's pretty much acting like a grab tank, most likely, if he's gonna chuck around a Big Mac. You know what I'm saying?
Joel Atkins.
Whoa!
Shock Attack Guns is the latest rumors engine we got. Rumors seem to say it's for a Bad Moon epic character.
Oh, you know what? I don't even think it's a shock attack gun. I think it's a shock hammer. I think people are somewhat either misinterpreting that from the rumors, because that comes from the Brutal but Cunning book, I believe, that you're talking about. And in that book, it's a main character actually has a shock hammer, not a shock attack gun. So that's my understanding, at least, or at least what I'm assuming. If I'm wrong, that's fine. But I've never heard of a shock attack gun named epic character. Oh, he's a Bad Moon. So I don't know which one that is. But I think it's actually a Death Skull shock attack Big Mac with it's a Death Skull with shock attack hammer, which I would love to see something different brought into the Orks data sheet. So maybe I'm just being hopeful.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just being hopeful. But imagine what could a shock hammer do? And that's just a different weapon that we'd love to see. Maybe it might give us our AP that we're lacking.
Right. Some high damage, wounds, all of it.
Who knows? It might end up being like 2 AP, 3 damage. You know, why not? It is a shock hammer.
All right. Been running 3 cans and strategic reserving them, having good times with that.
Oh, I love that. That makes up for their very slow movement. The fact that they take up space and they occupy space that you don't really want to deal with that, and they are susceptible to long range, firepower. So you cover that, the distance in that, you're like, oh, you're shooting at my stuff over there. Killer cans coming on this side of the board, and then they get to skirmish. So I can see that being really useful. I like that. That's a good way to use killer cans.
Right, and Blake Kirchhoff says Kill Rig War Tower is great for killing 2 up
that's
saves.
true, right? Auto last cannon them like blah blah, So there you go. Also bring the Kill Rig and start hitting those Redemptors with the War Tower, I guess is what Blake's saying. And he's right. Blake's totally right, because that's something that Kill Rigs actually starting to becoming more played. Yes. That was what we were seeing too. Is people are understanding that, hey, this multi-purpose model, especially with the fact that it has torrent, it has a last cannon torrent, matters a lot. So don't sleep on Kill Rigs. And I was joking, I was laughing when I was saying those things, but I meant it for real, because it's easily slept on that guy actually auto hits, and then he can run in and fight. He can do tank shock. He's transporting the other anti-vehicle, anti-monster unit of a beast boss with 10 boys inside of him. Right. So you're just stacking all that if you have to. But and those Redemptors are going to be wounding him on 5s. So that's another thing.
That's possibly a good solution for our buddy Redmond.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
Black Templar.
If you have it, we don't know what you have. The list I said, we just gave you a couple of street pointers.
All right, the Ork Commissar. You're going to have tell me.
Talk Black Hawk.
Is he a character?
Mm-hmm. That's the bad. I think that's when he's talking about that he thinks is the bad. I think he thinks it's the Bad Moon. I'm just saying I haven't heard him. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I just think if you're going to have a shock weapon and an epic character, it's probably going to be the one from their #1 Ork book. So I just think that goes in tandem. It's not that I don't think the theory is not a valid theory. A lot of theories can be valid. We're all just presuming here. So I'm going to go ahead and presume that it's going to go in tandem with their books, because their books are their main thing, and that's the most popular Ork character.
Which
and
book
that's,
is more
and that's Uftak. I think it's Uftak.
Uftak.
I don't even know who the other guy is. I don't know who the Bad Moon's guy is. I know the Death Skull. He's in a Bad Moon's clan. Maybe that's what he's talking about. Maybe it was just like people, because it's a rumor mill. It's like people talking to each other. I believe, but I believe Uftak is actually a Death Skull sitting. Yeah, no, he's a Death Skull. I don't want to ruin the book, that's why I'm making sure I don't say anything dumb. I don't even think he's in Bad Moon's clan. I think I'm right. Okay. To be honest, I think the rumor kind of just messed it up, and I'm just, chats can lead us. Not that you're trying to, but I'm like, wait, am I double second guessing myself? But I'm pretty sure it's that character.
Right. For the gun, people think it could be Nazdrek with a super snazzy gun and custom shooter blaster or something like that. I hope it's Uftak Blackhawk, a new melee weapon.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Yes. Thank you. That's exact. Thank you, Ork Commissar. That's what we're talking about is, there is the people think that it could be that character and have a cool weapon, but I'm going to go ahead and hold my heart, my faith in Gork and Mork that it's going to be Uftak, because Uftak's also a very fun, good character. It's a great book, and I think we do need a new melee weapon. That'd be very exciting for Orks, and I think hammers are just overall something that we need to kind of get used to using as well. Why does other people get hammers? We should get hammers. Right. That's like the most like crude base weapon, just a big heavy thing to hit you with. Why wouldn't Orks have a bunch of those? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Joel Atkins wants Waaagh on Warbike.
Whoa. Okay, there you go. No, you want more epic characters on bikes? Yeah, I mean, we don't have as many. Like, we used to actually have a Pain Boy on bike. We don't have that anymore. We used to have a Big Mac on bike. That doesn't exist anymore. Those are legends. So, yeah, see something definitely coming up with that too. There's a bunch of different models that we could get. It's how much does GW want to introduce of these new models, since they're kind of diminishing some of the Space Marine ones. Do they want to condense these indexes and these codexes because they're trying to do more towards balancing, or are they going to come up with more modern characters that are in line with their books, right? I mean, the Blood Axe Orc character in Brutal Cunning, not that he would become one, but he's a good example of someone that could have become one. We already have Snickrot, so you don't need him, but he's an example of a very cool and unique character that could easily end up getting a model if he catches enough steam. Not that he will, because we already have Snickrot, but but we don't have any books where there's like a Bad Moon, an awesome Bad Moon guy main character right now. Not a modern book, and that's what I'm talking about.
What's do you know what's happening in the latest books?
What do you mean? That like
Orks?
If Orks, I mean, Orks just exist. They lost pretty much in the Octaria sector. Gaz is running around because he keeps getting. Am I just gonna spoil? I don't want to spoil all the books, but yeah, but in general, Gaz is, we'll just say, motivated, unmotivated, confident, and unconfident. And he's constantly kind of going back and forth on what he wants to do and where he's at. And Orks overall also having a good time, but they did lose the Octaria sector to Tyranids, from what I understand. Was the last thing I caught up with.
All right, I want to see Nobz swinging some two-handed power weapons that have AP 2 or 3.
I just want to see more damage 3 in our codex, because when it comes out. I'm a little insulted. We're stuck with just 2 and -1 AP. And for those units that do have more AP, how dare you give Mega Nobz with Kill Saw's only 2 attacks GW? That is insulting. I do not accept it. But yes, I would love to see just a little bit more AP. But the whole point is GW is trying to get rid of that. But if you're not going to get rid of it at range, why are you getting rid of it in melee when their melee is already harder to get into?
Right.
So, I mean, come on, be consistent. You're going to Armor of Contempt everything and then reduce strength and AP for melee? No, that doesn't make sense, GW.
How about War Gear option that could attach to a unit with Deadly Demise and make it?
That would be awesome. That would be awesome. You should put some War Gear on a unit, or if one of the models end up coming with it, and then get Kareen. Because we don't have access to actually pop Kareen at will as we want, and that's kind of the problem. Is it's a really fun strat, and you always want to do it, but you're really just at the behest of the dice. And then when it happens, you're like, well, I didn't really care. It doesn't do anything. So yeah. So if you could do something for it, like, although what, that'd be smart if you somehow could put it in like as a weird or enhancement or War Gear for Speed Freaks, or something like that, and choose to blow up.
Did Gas sit on Makari, or is this a dirty Umi lies?
So I would say, before I fully in deep answer that question, is there's a direct lore answer to that. And that book is actually in the Gazgul Thraka book, because it explains the Makari himself. But to answer your question in a literal term, I'm pretty sure, he sat on him. Okay. But there's way more to that answer than that. So go ahead and listen to the Gaz Thraka book. It's actually a really good book, and it gives you a really good insight to the Orc mindset and actually how the Great Waaagh works. So catch up to the modern Orc books. That's my duty. David can punch me in the head. I'm actually supposed to do the audible audio on the books very, very soon, like this weekend. So either tomorrow or Sunday. And then we'll put up the short for that, so we can have the top 5 books that I recommend. And you know what? Some of them aren't going to have an Orc character on the main front of it, but that's not the point, because the secondary character to the book is a very interesting Orc character sometimes. And that's what makes it good. Plus, people don't mind listening to Humi's perspective while they're getting crumped. That could be funny.
1 in a million chance it feels like trying to pull off Kareen.
It's 1 in a million chance that you're going to pull it off and get useful results from it exactly when you needed it. And that's why having the ability to kind of get it more reliable would be kind of cool, right?
Getting the Killer Claw back and Trukk Boyz is what I expect from the Codex.
Okay, so you're talking about it was a relic or an enhancement where it had more damage or more AP. It's been in 8th edition and 9th edition. Yes, you can get that one back. Do you think the stick's coming back? The big the other golf one, I forgot what it's called. It was Edwap's Kill Choppa, and then there was another dumb one, but that one's not good, so I don't want that to come back. So ignore that. But yes, Kim, that's a good shout out. And Trukk Boyz. Yeah, Trukk Boyz used to be able to jump out of a truck at advancement charge still, pretty much like if they had the ramp, the assault ramp. So that would be something to bring back. What would that be though? And which Waaagh? Would that be in a Dread Waaagh, or would that be in in a battle wagon? I forgot what the battle wagon Waaagh is called, but there's actually a Waaagh where it's just a bunch of battle wagons, because that's common in Orc lore, where they're like 20 battle wagons, go, like so. It's a Blitz Waaagh, I believe, a Blitz or something like that. A Blitzer Waaagh, yeah, I mean, you could put it in there. So yeah, that's actually a good call out from Kim, because that could be an Orc detachment in itself, or sub rules to an interesting Orc detachment.
It's all going to come down to if GW has a lot of battle wagons in their backside.
Yeah, they have a lot of battle wagons, or if they come out with a new one, and no, I'm just kidding, guys.
Can you guys explain why it is that Unbridled Carnage is good to use on Beast Boss?
No, absolutely not. Forget him. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. So what it is, guys, is you have the Snagga boys on foot in tandem with him. Boom, right? One has the ability. No, I think you're actually good. One has the ability to re-roll, which is the Snagga boys on foot, re-roll against monsters and vehicles. The character himself's abilities is dev wounds on the charge and +1 to hit, meaning that even if you're -2 to actually bring his thing back up. Yeah, bring it up real quick, David. Yeah. So we're gonna answer this succinctly. All right. So looking at him and the Snagga boys, we'll go back and forth. But the point of him is that he's giving +1 to hit, and if you look at his Beast Choppa, it's already hitting on 2s, meaning even if someone has -1 to hit, still hitting on 2s. That makes this strategy very reliable, as in he's getting 6 attacks, up to 7 during the Waaagh. When you're fighting into a vehicle or monster, you're going to re-roll the hit roll after you've popped Unbridled Carnage, even on your successful hit rolls, meaning you're going to pick up the 2, 3, and the 4 when you're doing his hits. So to explain in more detail, if I have 6 dice and I roll all 6, mathematically I'll get 1, and then I'll get 1 of every other number, right? You're going to leave the 5 and 6 there. You're going to also pick up everything from a 4 down, re-roll it again, because you're looking for more 5s and 6s. Because mathematically, even if you roll another 1, you're going to possibly roll another 2, 5 or 6s. And then that makes your attacks possibly up to 10 if you're sitting at 7 already. And that's really what you want, because you're trying to get over the fact that you might only roll 2 on a 4-up if you have 6 base attacks, right? So you need to get more attacks from the Beast Boss, and how you do that is popping Unbridled Carnage and re-rolling the hit roll, fishing for 5s and 6s. So whenever you hear the term fishing, what people are saying is they're picking up the re-roll, the hits, and they're looking for more direct numbers. So you could fish for 6s with Flashgitz as well if you choose to, because you can pick them up and roll, but that's not the way you want to play that. But for this unit, it is. So you want to re-roll and look for 5s and 6s. That way, when you do go to roll for your dev wounds, you're rolling 10 dice instead of 6 dice or in such something like that, right? So that's how you use that ability with the Beast Boss plus Snagga boys. And that makes it way more reliable to put the damage. You can stage a Squighog Boy unit nearby, throw the bomb squigs into them, and then run up with the Beast Boss. If they're already close to you, you can even throw a grenade with your Beast Boss. I think actually not him, not the Beast Boss. Not this guy, but you can throw a grenade with another unit that's staged, because the Snagga boys can't either. You can throw a grenade, and then you can deal with that as well. So on a turn that's not a Waaagh, and you really have to kind of dig something out, and you're not ready to commit your Squighog boys, your other units, the Beast Boss with the Snagga boys is a great way to kind of do that. So
that's a good explanation. Joel Atkins, Blitz Waaagh with planes and battle wagons.
Okay, that's what. It is a Blitz Waaagh. So that's what it is. So do we have anything else, David? Or are we good here?
I think that covers it.
Guys, any more questions before we get off? Next week, I think that's going to be our tier list video. Oh, I think it's time. Yeah. I think it's time for a new tier list video. I wanted to give some time in between the data slate, actually get to see what things performed, what thing rose, because just by looking at it, it's like, well, only a couple things changed, and then all the other factions changed this much. So you just be assuming. But if you actually look at now, we have results, we have tournaments results, we've done Waaagh Wednesdays 4 times in a row now that we've got to actually see the list. We reviewed the top performing list. We've actually now counted the actual top performing units throughout the months, so we actually know again what's being consistent. So now we've actually, of course, it's mostly our anecdotal and our personal data, but that's still data nonetheless. That's coming from a educated or informed opinion. So you don't have to completely agree with it, but we're not going to just going based off my favorites, because then I would just say Battle Wagon number 1, and I'd put, and then I'd put Dreads number 2, and I just, all of a sudden I'd put everything that's not good as S tier. So don't forget about the Def Copters. It would be S tier plus. So yeah, don't be afraid to disagree either during the live chat or in the comments, because I think we're gonna live chat that one, the tier list, or are we gonna just record it? So I think that'd be fun to do it live. It does make it a little more challenging, but it means that if we say anything wrong, you guys can also correct us or give my input, maybe even sway us. So we'll do that tier list video as well. I look forward to doing that. It should be fun. And we're trying to record our bat reps, combat patrols, and the shorts. So that's what's coming, because it's October. Whoa!
Yeah, those will be coming soon. I just got a little bit of painting to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we want to have painted models for you.
And actually, I acquired more of that Kill Team industrial terrain, so I have to paint that up real quick myself. So yeah, overall, that's what's going to be coming, guys. So we just appreciate you, and we'll have what the comments are. We war in the name of Mork and Gork. Good stream, my dudes, and we appreciate you as well. Oh, I might see you, Joe. Don't worry, but I'm not saying that yet. Whoa! Sorry, I had to get another Waaagh going. But all right, guys, we look forward to it. Give me a criticism, give the feedback, let us know, hit up the Discord, yell at me, contradict me. I don't care. I'll crump you. Because there's one thing to keep in mind. Don't cross the wall, because we knock your teeth out. Whoa!